and welcome back to another episode of Unscripted and Unchoreographed. I'm your host Sarah, the dancer.
And Neve, the actor.
And today we're here with our guest Nóra.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I come from dance as well, but theatre, so a mix of everything, kind of choreographer and theatre maker in a way.
Can you give us a little insight into how you got started in the arts?
Yeah, I think it was the kind of classic thing. There were loads of girls in my school doing, at 4 years old, going to ballet class. And this mum came up to my mum and just asked, does your daughter want to join and go with my daughter? And just a coincidence in a way that she just, if she hadn't offered, I don't know when I might have gotten around to it or if it would have happened. But I'm also very lucky that kind of both my parents work in the arts as well. So not this kind of daunting alien concept. They know from me that it's a thing. It can happen. It works. And I also know from them it is quite different to other jobs in a way in terms of rhythms or pacing, or how stuff actually happen as well. So I think it's kind of helped kind of both fronts, them trusting me that I'm actually working, and then me seeing it's a path. My dad's kind of visual art and drawing is his kind of mediums. My mum is kind of a radio producer, but also works at kind of writing and text and music as well. They're both very different, but they get it as well. And I think I'm just very stubborn as well. I kept doing it, like that from ballet as a young age. At 13 or so, I saw this contemporary dance. I'm like, what is this weird thing? And I just became so curious about it, but also excited that there was more than ballet in a way. Because I always liked it and I did it, but like I knew I wasn't the best. Like I was grand, but it wasn't like I knew I wasn't going to be a ballerina, even though I might have wanted to be one. It was in kind of Shawbrook dance school. I used to do the kind of summer camps there every year. Annika Lowe, the amazing kind of person who runs it, in the evenings we'd have kind of choreography sessions. The first day we went in there, none of us knew. We were all these bunch of kind of 12, 13-year-old awkward girls, and they're like, make a dance, and we didn't know what that really meant. And she would literally just break it down really clearly. Make a rhythm, move your foot and see what happens next. This also counts as dancing, was really exciting, and seeing then the more you can do with it, because I grew up doing theatre as well in the Gaiety School of Acting, so I always loved the two kind of coming together and seeing it's the work I'm drawn to, but then also the work I like to make is that fuses the two of them as well. I don't know what that spiel was, but basically it's kind of always been there, and I feel like I always knew I was going to be working in it one way or another in whatever context.
Your parents are working in the artist industry. So when you decided like, oh, I want to take this step further and I want to go into the arts career myself, were your parents supportive of it or did they have reservations?
Yeah, completely supportive. I feel like there was almost never a time that it was considered I'd do anything else. That was always the option. When I was like very small, acting was the main thing I wanted to do. I did the classic, the shampoo bottle in the mirror, winning the Oscar. They always knew I was going to do it, and I've got a younger brother as well, and he's completely different. He's more kind of sciencey and writing. I think they always saw that I was the kind of performance kid in a way. I loved the attention. They'd always say, even as a baby, like if they were holding me, I'd move their head to look at me constantly. So I think they knew it was inevitable. They took everything very seriously that I liked to do. Like, okay, you want to dance, then we're going to go for it and do it in a way, which was a lot of times, but it was also brilliant because it meant I could actually see, how do you do it? And I kind of grew up going to like book launches and gallery openings. I was always hanging around in those kind of settings. I always saw the art world almost as a whole or something. It never felt like this is that lane or this is that lane or this is that discipline or something. It always just seemed like art with a capital A or something. Seeing my mum producing shows and seeing her in charge, I was always like, I want to be that role. So I think it made it all seem a lot more possible. And that they understand like applications or like how those the pacings almost of those things. So it's really reassuring, and I'm so grateful for it.
Because you trained then in Fonties, did you suddenly make the change? I prefer dance, or did you see dance as maybe more of a career option?
Yeah, again, it was very almost by accident in a way, because I did a lot of acting and shows and stuff when I was a kid. I'd be like the child actor in plays and something that they needed. But when I was 12, that ballet school I was with, they were going to put on a second class a week for the people I thought were kind of doing well or had potential in a way. And I was asked to join that one, and I was just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing dance now. Like, it was literally just that. I was like, but because I did always love both, but it just, that moment for some reason changed a lot of it for me. I don't know, I loved in dance that there's so many ways. It's because it feels with theatre, or like kind of straight theatre in a way that it just like it's very predictable in form or something. Whereas like in kind of dance shows that you can use text and you can use all that as well, but there's also this other tools. I'm really grateful that that's what I studied, because I feel like I understand both fields. I think it can be harder. People feel almost more intimidated by dance if they don't feel trained in it. Even when I've worked with actors, kind of doing movement directing for a different play, it's like they like the panic almost on their face, the idea they might have to move, even though like they're doing it and they're grand at it. It's just, I think there's more of a mental block or something with dance. I'm happy that's the one I did, because I think I see a piece like a whole piece in a different way, rather than thinking I'll make a theatre piece and I might add a dance section to it or something. And I'm so fortunate, like in my studies, it was messy time with COVID. It was awful at times. It was in our first year, kind of halfway through, COVID happened, and I had to come back to Ireland, and we didn't know what was going to happen, if classes were going to go back at all. There was no communication with the college, and we had to do kind of exams in sitting rooms and stuff. It was weird, weird times. I think it was in my first 2 years were just in the choreography department, and sorry, in the contemporary dance department, and then at the end of the second year, you have a choice to apply to the choreography department if you want. And I always kind of had that in the back of my mind, even when I was applying at kind of 17 to Fonties. I was like, but that's an option you can do. And I'm so glad I did that, because it was just 5 of us in the class. And I think we really, really bonded, and like we were really there. It was really a special, special group. We always say it was like when One Direction talk about being in a band together, no one will get it unless you're in it. That we get what we went through, because it was like madness and chaos at times, but it was brilliant. I really found my movement language. I always kind of knew, but it kind of just cemented everything for me, and just getting to try out making as well was brilliant. We had to generate so much material and just do everything in terms of production roles and creative roles. It was so great for actually just seeing, how do you make a piece? How does it happen? And seeing what are you drawn to always. It was, yeah, I'm really glad that dance is the one I studied, but I'm slowly getting back into acting. And in many ways, I almost feel more comfortable calling myself an actor than a dancer, because I don't feel like I'm a good dancer.
I actually want to throw this out to Neve. What is it about movement that actors find intimidating to get into?
I think it does depend. I think actors really like movement. It's when you call it dance, they freak the hell out. Movement is fine. Movement's fine. Actors can move. And I think sometimes it's because usually with actors, they're thinking with their heads a lot and they're talking, and it's remember the lines, remember the lines. Like if they're learning blocking, which is movement, or transitions, they don't see that as movement. That's not the most important thing. Text, most important thing. But I'm a weird actor. I prefer movement to text. I think it really depends.
No, thank you. I was just curious, because it's come up a few times where actors, I find them they'll try and get out of it much more than a dancer will get out of saying a few lines here and there. That's just my experience. But you went off to Fonties in the Netherlands. How was your experience? Because you were there quite early on in the COVID period, and you were saying a lot of your training was done in your sitting room. How did that affect your training?
Yeah, it was kind of 2019 started my first year. So the first 6 months were, it was like the kind of mad roller coaster of, it was like, oh my God, all these people love dance. It was so magical, and a weird time as well, kind of moving away, and like, yeah, the idea of just actually functioning as a person on your own while everything else is new around you as well. So it was a lot to kind of take in. But I had 2 friends from Ireland who came over as well at the same time as me in my class. I wasn't scared of the idea. I think that helped me. It was really comforting having that. I think it made me really excited about a lot of stuff, because there was the club and street style department as well that we kind of work alongside, and just seeing all of them, like going out with them on a night out, I just like, you guys are so cool. The way they dance or something, I saw a whole new side to it as well. But it wasn't just like doing it for commercial kind of style or something. It was really taking that as an art form as well. I was really struck by it, or just seeing this whole other layer, just kind of seeing more and more new layers of it. Yeah, seeing actually what do I feel like as a dancer. I always describe it as kind of dancey dance, and then there's more kind of theatre dance, which is kind of what I do in a way. And the majority of people in class are more dancey dancers. So I was like, how the hell did I get in here? it made me almost feel more kind of confident after a while, being like, oh no, this is actually what I do. I don't do that, and that's fine. I became, more kind of grounded in knowing this is what I'm good at and also what I like. I don't actually really care for that. I can admire that they're brilliant at it, but it doesn't do anything for me. In our first year, they had in the Netherlands, it's a thing that you need to get your propadauza at the end of first years. If you don't get a certain level, you'll be kicked out. Everyone was so aware they might just kick me out. So you know when you have your place, you're in. I was just so stressed in the first few months, and it came out in everything. I was comically ahead of timing. I would just go. The minute it was like 5, 6, 7, 8, I would run through that material, and it'd be awful because I was just, I need to be good. And my body would just like tense up, and I'd be awful to watch. It's like, I'm poor classmates and teachers having to see me go through that mess. Once we had our first assessments and exams, I was like, okay, no, I'm still here. Like, it's fine. I can breathe. And then COVID happened. Actually, none of this matters. Like, it's all stupid dance. Like, so it was kind of grounding in a way. Of course, we need it. And as people, as a society, we need the arts, but it's like, we can also survive, even in an awful way, without it. So it's just kind of reassuring, if I'm not great at the end of the day, it's okay. Like, it's fine. COVID time was weird because we'd have classes like in our bedrooms on Zoom, doing floor classes, and you'd crash into your bed. It was awful. You felt so out of your body because I felt like I'd gotten so fit or something in the first 6 months. And then I was like a slob. We were told that it was for 2 weeks and then come back. So I think my friend was visiting for the weekend, and my parents like, just get on the flight back to Ireland with her and come here for a while and see. So I didn't bring any clothes really with me. I think I had one pair of tracksuit and like a hoodie or something. I was using clothes like from when I was 15 to do my ballet exams. It was all just weird. So the kind of first 2 years were strange in that way, because the second year in Netherlands there was like, oh, what's the word again? But like no one was allowed outside of the house past 9 p.m. and the guards would kind of roam the streets, and you'd get arrested if you were out or something. So it felt very kind of dystopian, and that we'd see our classmates in the halls, but we weren't allowed to mix them because they were the other class. It was all just very strange. And in the end of second year, we got plagued with so many people getting infected. It was just the strangest time. We'd be out for weeks, even if you didn't have it, just because we were kind of close contact. So when third year then started, I'm in the choreography department now. It's a new start. I really felt like, oh, this is actually when it's starting. Because I'd gotten used to the setup of the college, everyone in the class, and like being in the Netherlands as well. And third year really felt like a take two of it in a way. I think that's when everything really kind of settled, and I felt like, no, this is when I'm actually taking everything in that I can.
I did part of my training in COVID as well, and it was a very similar experience like that. Everyone thought it was going to be 2 weeks, and then months later, and no one knew what was going on. And the worst one was we broke up for Christmas, and we were told, yeah, we'll be back in January, and we didn't get back in for another, I think, 3-4 months. I think that was the worst one. While you were doing your training, you were also creating your own work. And how do you find training and creating at the same time?
I was always going to do it. I'm always so terrified of free time. And the idea of graduating was like the worst idea ever. Like, not knowing what you're going to do, I really don't like it. That's literally the majority of the kind of the work and the field that we're in. The minute I started third year then in choreography, I was like, oh no, I can call myself a choreographer now and I can start applying. I would literally just go on Dance Ireland Opportunities, Dancing Opportunities, the website, the kind of European one, and refresh it every day and just apply for whatever I could. Any breaks we had in between class or lectures, I would research everything I could in terms of funding organizations, or how does stuff work? What are like these kind of networks, and just seeing actually what is all of this. I was always so frustrated in our college. We didn't really get any of that. It was great for learning as a maker and who you are and what you like and everything, but there was hardly anything in entrepreneurship or building or just production. Actually, how do you actually get work and then actually make it happen? Because that's almost 90% of the work I do now. It feels like a treat when I get to go in the studio and like make or be a performer. I kept having so many talks to kind of the head of our department, being like, where's our class? Many times, like, he would tell me that I should leave the course or something, because he's like, you're not being kind of challenged in a way that you want to be, or you're not getting the stuff you want. He's like, we love you as a maker, but if you're not feeling like you're actually getting the stuff you need, maybe it's better off somewhere else. He said that to me at the end of third year. I was like, I'm not moving. I have one more year, and I really like the course. We just need this. I think for me, because I knew immediately the kind of work I wanted to make, I didn't feel the need to take so much time on that. That I was hungry for almost the kind of the hardcore information. And we had to make, for our kind of application to the choreography department, we had to make a 3-minute solo and then a 5-minute either duet or trio. I used that trio I'd made and I applied for stuff with that. I was kind of the end of second year, I had this piece and it felt somewhat true to kind of the work I like and want to make. So I was like, I have that video, I'll just send it out. I got it, it landed. It was this festival called Solo Duo. They needed kind of duets of kind of 9 minutes. One of the dancers that were in it originally, she was away on internship in England, so there was 2 of them left, so it was perfect. And we just kind of added it and changed it, and I sent it off, and then we got selected to perform in Harlem. I think it was just actually figuring out, when the production manager would send me, we need lights, we need music, I was like, okay, what are all these things? And like really just fluffing it. I think everything I've done is complete fluff of just figuring out how it happens and really just trying to act like you know what it is, because you're terrified if you do something wrong that someone will ask you, wait, how do you not know this? Or something. It won that competition in Harlem, and then I went to Budapest to like represent the Netherlands. It really helped me to see actually what can happen. Actually, hearing feedback on it, and me even just spending a few months from second year into third year on that piece. Oh, you can build on something, you can develop something. And as a maker, it was great. And then also just me as like a entrepreneur, choreographer person, it was really helpful. But then of course it was COVID, so that was all online, and Budapest we didn't get to go in the end. But it was a great to show that when I've applied for stuff, I already had something in 2 different festivals and it just looked good immediately. And it gave me a lot of confidence in being like, no, I can do this. Like it happened even when I didn't know how to do it. So I would just apply for everything. I think going into fourth year, I had like my master plan as to what I wanted kind of after graduation. That's when I started kind of ham sandwiches and discipline. It was, I think, the end of second year. My mum, we were all watching the Sunday game, and I was talking about Pat Spillane's hands and how animated they were and the movement of them. I was like, it just feels like it's so camp and that he's actually dancing with them or something. And she was like, that should be the first piece you do after college. And that was before I'd even done the choreography department or anything. And again, I'm very stubborn. And I was like, well, that's what I have to do now. I always had that at the back of my mind. I spent kind of all fourth year kind of seeing actually how do you build it, like applying for residencies. I got kind of ill in our centre in Galway dance lined up for immediately after graduation. It really helped me breathe, being like, okay, I can go to my graduation ceremony and be like, I actually have work afterwards, which was like just a relief in a way. I didn't feel that immediate panic. And so I immediately had a line when someone asked, what are you doing next? Which really helped. Even if they didn't know what I was saying, it just looked like I knew what I was doing, which was really great for my head as well. Trying to balance the Dutch scene and the Irish scene in a way, what's happening over there, and applying for both, which I'm still trying to figure out. I find it hard when in the country I'm not in to keep tabs on that. But I saw like on an Instagram story of some kind of company, a seen and heard application, and I applied for it. I was like really hungover when I was sending the application in, and it was the last day of the deadline, and trying to put something together. The piece wasn't real. We'd done like 2 rehearsals, and somehow I got in. I think doing that helped me so much in seeing what is the scene in Ireland, and also how do you mount a show in a way, because I had to fly the dancers over, we all had to go over, and working from Netherlands to Ireland. I met good people, useful people that saw it as well, really helped actually getting connections out there of like, but they were like impressed that I was still in college doing it. So like, and I didn't feel like I immediately had to get work from them because of that. So it was a nice, it felt like a good position to be in. Graduating, that I had people to turn to, being like, okay, how do I actually do this now? For me, I think I would have gone crazy if I hadn't done stuff during college, but I think I also did go crazy because I missed so much of college as well. But they were great at being like, okay, you're going to go away for 3 weeks. I was like shooting a film and I was like, I'm gone for the month, and they would just let me go, and then I'd come back, and yeah, they great kind of trusted me that I would get everything done that needed to be done. Yeah, so it was a mad year, but I'm really grateful for it now.
You obviously have a very clear vision of what you wanted to do. That's a really good thing, because I think a few people we've talked to as well, especially those who graduated in and around the COVID scene, they were very much like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I can do, because the world was in such turmoil. especially the fact that you brought it up with your college that, hey, we don't have any classes in how to look for funding, how to find residencies. I know that was a huge problem. It very much felt when you left, it was like, well, there you go now. We've trained you in how to be a dancer, but not necessarily in how to find the jobs. But fair play for absolutely like smashing it out and doing so much, because that would have been so much work on top of your training. Ham, Sandwich and Discipline was in Seen and Heard. Could you explain what your creative process was for that?
Yeah, so it all did come from Pat's Balan in a way, and just seeing the idea, because I love the GA, the piece about the GA basically. I've always loved it growing up, but I've never played it. I remember at 7 or 8 being like, my parents asked, "Do you want to start playing?" But I felt like it wouldn't work then. I was too old, so I never actually started to play. I would go to like any club matches. We're huge Dublin supporters as well, so it's always been part of it. And but all the kind of schools I've got, like primary and secondary, have all been big GA schools, so it's always been there. And even the kind of the teenage discos at the local GA club, like it's always part of you somehow. Yes, I've always found it so fascinating, but so aware that I'm not part of that scene at the same time. My brother plays, but I was like, he's the player in the family. I don't do it. Like even when he'd have club matches, I get so anxious going there because I'm like, it's not my scene. But I was so drawn to it always, and it felt like a great thing I could tap into, because it's so physical anyway in terms of dance, that there's a language, there's so much to draw from. Because I hate making dance, I hate making movement, I struggle to do it. Like I need something very concrete. I always write lists of physical actions. Like my graduation piece was called "You Gotta Trust the Future's Gonna Be a Bit Sexy," and it was all about kind of growing up and romanticizing adulthood and everything. So I'd make lists of like things you do in your 20s, of like making the pasta pesto, walking because everywhere because you can't afford a car, you can't afford even just getting the bus, the hungover waddle. We made a movement for each one of them, and we'd have like a list of kind of 40 things and write one. So I did the same thing on our first residency in kind of Illinois Arts Centre in July 2023, and just writing lists of things that players do or spectators do, and just making a movement for each one of them. Because for some reason my brain works a lot better that way. I hate like improvising and then finding movement. I need something, words or some structure to go from in a way to make something. And we had then a sharing Vince Gilbert Arts Festival. We kind of collaborated with the local J club. We went to talk to their senior ladies team about what their mindset is and how they feel and what they'd almost like to see in the piece, or what they feel would be relevant for the piece, which is really just interesting, just being in that space as well. And even just walking onto their pitch and just being with them was really fascinating and also terrifying. I don't want them to think that we're these annoying dance people trying to like make something out of what they do and making it all be pretentious or something, when it's just not what we're trying to do. But they were really lovely. And then they went to kind of Galway dance for August for 2 weeks then as well. And we had an hour like draft of it by the end of it. I remember looking back at the videos and I was like, this is so bad. Like, this is not good. And I was very much like, what am I doing with it? Like, we followed the structure kind of roughly of training, getting ready for the match, first half, second half, and then like the end, basically. So that was kind of what we based on. And it felt very just like showing it for no reason. Was the urgency for me almost as a maker to do it, and for an audience to see it. I didn't feel any hook at all. And I didn't feel like the movement was interesting enough on its own to just watch it. It wasn't engaging enough. I needed something else with it. But I had a residency in Dance Ireland November last year. And it was during that week, I think it all like fell into place. I had to write an application for something the week before. And like writing applications, like they're horrible, but like they really actually do help me to like figure out what I'm saying with a piece as well. Because I was writing it was like for a fringe one that they make with you, which I didn't get. But I'm really thankful I did go for it, because it really helped me to understand this piece actually is about Irishness. Like it's not just the GA, it's like actually just the experience of Ireland and growing up. And I was like, oh my god, of course I'm writing about this. I've just moved back to Ireland, and seeing how do I feel about it, and like what forms an Irish identity, what makes it different, and almost our culture in a way, and using the GA, which is such a like an Irish institution, in a way to kind of map that out. And that like changed everything for me in my head, of thinking actually what is this. And think that week in Dance Ireland, we like made it a NAF dance piece, like my company NAF Dance, and that like is adding the camp, adding the disco, adding the comedy as well. Because I think I was so nervous of people thinking I was mocking this world or something, or what each thing meant. Like we have a scene with the kind of the mammies talking on the sidelines, and I was so worried, what does it say about women in sport and everything? What does this do? And like making it such a big deal in my head. But I was just like, oh no, like that's what they're like, and they're also so vital to it. So then just take them for that. It made me really relax in what I was doing as a maker and what I was saying about this kind of world. I'm not a player. I felt like I really had to prove that I was allowed almost to make a piece about it. In December last year, Ben Sullivan came on as the dancer in it, and he's a dream. He's incredible. We met like when we were 15, 16 in a youth program with Kush Games. He knew all these amazing choreographers and everything, and I was so intimidated by him, but I was like, he's so cool. And we kept kind of just like finding each other again in like W dance company circles, and then we both went to Fonties together then as well. He left after second year, but we had their kind of 2 years together, and I'd always admired him so much. And like when I had the chance to kind of get a dancer for this, I was like, I would love Ben, would be incredible. And he just makes me a better maker as well. I think it's the perfect balance that I feel so comfortable with him, but I'm also really wanting to prove myself to him as well. So it's like I want him to like what we're doing, and I want him to think I'm a good maker as well. So I'm really trying to be good for him, but also feeling like I can suggest anything to him as well. That would be so stupid. Like we've got Pat's Ballant Dream Ballet in it, which is ridiculous, but he went for it and he got it. It makes me better. I really wanted to take Seen and Heard as like, this is our piece. Does it work? I'm doing Seen and Heard again this year, but it's like I'm actually using it to test out an idea in a different way. So it's like at a different kind of stage. Whereas last year I was like, we're making a show and trying to make it be as good as possible. I think that was what that needed, because I had a lot more time with that piece, and doing well in Seen and Heard really helped us going forward. Because then next month we brought it to Paris. Not that wasn't from Seen and Heard. We had a piece because of that, and bringing it to Paris, like still when I say it I get like, oh my god, like it's wild, because the year of the Olympics, the Centre Culturel Irlandais were doing a lot of work on sport in Ireland. They'd seen a publication about when we were in Illan in summer 2023, and they saw the piece, and the director reached out to me being like, would you like to come? Obviously yes. Like it was like 2 weeks after I graduated college, and the piece was not made at all, and I don't know how she trusted me, but we all went over, and it was like myself, Ben, and Dean. He's come up, he's done the kind of tech stuff with our photos for us. So it was just the 3 of us in Paris for like 2 weeks, like drinking so much wine, walking the Seine, and then one day we had a performance. It was the dream that like having Paris now gave us such a boost, and we're talking to programmers now as well, that they can see we went there. It looks really good, which really helps. Because then in May we did Galway Theatre Festival. We had 2 nights there, and we had to do a 50-minute version, because at that point it was only 25 minutes. And then for throwing it together for Galway Theatre Festival, it was a lot. And because I was working on other projects at the time as a kind of movement director and actor as well, so my head was like fried. I'd never made a 50-minute piece before. I didn't know what that needed, what it meant, and like being in it as well, my instincts are always so much slower. I feel like I'm a really quick choreographer when I'm outside of it and choreographing people. I just know immediately visually what it needs, but being in it as well, I think that just slows everything down for me. Although selfishly, I don't want anyone else to be in it because I love doing it so much, so I don't want that to change. Everything just takes a bit more time. And we made the Galway Theatre Festival piece on like no money and guarantees, and like it was wild. So I was just so thankful for everyone that like worked with us on it, knowing the resources we have, which is no resources, and just like having patience with everything with it. And because I think each time we did it, it got better, and we saw what landed and what could be improved on it. But it was then through Seen and Heard performance, I'd invited Julie Kelleher from The Mermaid to come see it. Like the amount of emails I send out for invites is, I go mad every time of a performance. Like outbox is so crazy and the inbox is so empty. It's horrible. But it's she came to see it and Seen and Heard, and then she really liked it. We had a chat after. I'd never met her before. She was so lovely, and we had like a few meetings afterwards. And she said The Mermaid would like to come on as partners with it, which was like incredible, because I'd just gotten selected for Fringe at that point. So it was like I had no money. Like I completely fudged the application on Fringe, being like, this is the money we have. I had no money. Completely making it all up. So I don't know what we would have done if they hadn't come on as partners. Like the Fringe wouldn't have been possible at all. But they were great because they gave us kind of financial backing as well to like improve the production. So I got my friend from college, Tien, on to do sound design. My uncle did set design. Everything just kind of elevated. We got new costumes. It felt like a production or a show. Before, I think it felt like a piece, but I was like, oh no, this is now a show. I was like so proud to like show people, and I was just dying to do it. I mean, I think because there's no production team, it's just me. So I think I lost my brain many times over the summer being like, how do you make this happen? And I don't know what I'm doing. Like getting all these emails and like needing answers for production stuff that I have no idea what those words are. So that was a lot. But then it was like actually just a week of Fringe. It was the most surreal time. It was brilliant. And just every time we're on that stage with Ben, like it's magic and I adore it so much. And I love the moment. I'm always like panicked if he'll be happy after his performance. Then he like with me about smile, I'm like, this is the happiest I've ever been. And it's like the response from Fringe was so brilliant. Like it couldn't have gone much better. And they got kind of nominations for it and the awards and everything. It all just felt like it's happening. And it's so bizarre afterwards, like, oh, is that it? Like we just have to move on and make another piece now. I was just so exhausted. And I was like, I'm done. I don't want to make again. And slowly trying to be like, okay, you actually enjoy doing this, and slowly trying to see how can I get people on to like help me do it or make it sustainable for myself and for everyone who I collaborate that can support them, that it's not just me when I'm kind of drained by everything else that like I can't give them the energy. It can be better for everyone, basically. It's like the work at the moment is like all the kind of touring plans and seeing what we can do with it afterwards is like my head frying stuff at the moment and just seeing how can we actually get a team with it. So I think that was like the whole life story of that piece, but that's the vibe we're at right now.
That leads me on to my next question. I went to Seen and Heard, then a Galway Arts Festival. Each time it been getting bigger and longer. How did you find dealing with the workload increasing and having to be more than just a dancer and an actor? You're also a director, then a writer, admin, advertising, the lot. How did you find that process? And did you like it?
Yeah, like I think I do kind of love it. I love the madness. Like I love chaos, but then I also complain about it as well. I love that balance of anything could happen and you might just collapse, and that's kind of exhilarating as well. But then I know like I crash afterwards and it's not good. I love just before it gets really bad. It's like a lovely little in between moment. You're like, oh, this is kind of fun. I always feel like I'm Carrie Bradshaw running around New York. Like that's my energy. I love my emails. I'm like, I'm running to coffee or I'm running to a meeting. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in New York. That's what I go for. And that kind of helps me work when I have that feeling. But I also know that's not good for me or the work. I think ham sandwiches was so beneficial in me learning how do you make a piece and how do you give it a life? Because in college, I made so many pieces in college, like because we had to with assessments and everything. It was just like the turnover was mad. You'd have these few weeks to make it and then you perform it. You might have to write about it afterwards and then you move on to the next one. I think I was so in that headspace and I was so used to making that I was like, actually, how do you switch that kind of rhythm or pattern and be like, I need to actually sustain this because it's so exhausting and expensive to like make a piece that we need to find ways to like give it a life afterwards. This piece has really helped me learn what the like system is in terms of applications or like how you talk to programmers or how they actually book shows. Just it's been so useful in like introducing me to the theatre scene has been so great and helpful. But I think I have gone mad so many times. And Heard were emailing me last year being like, you can't also be the producer, performer, choreographer, and director of the show. Well, I am going to be, so because no one else, I can't afford anyone else. Like everything was a tight budget already. We're tight on money, I just don't get paid. People know that I can cut back on that and then work other jobs for me to get my money. I can sacrifice that just to serve the piece or like serve the work. We also know like things like that. I can't live wherever I want to live then with that. So it's like a balance of trying to help me as a person like Nóra and then help me naff Nóra as well. A kind of juggling act between the two. But I also like that I do know how it works because I've done everything. Now when I'm slowly trying to see how can I bring the people on board, that I'm not thinking, oh, they do this mystery role. I know what it's like to talk to the venues and book accommodation or to plan travel and seeing how can you plan like schedule tech time and what lights need certain place. I really learned a lot. And some bits I still love and want to do. And like the idea of having to like write an application with someone else, I can't do that. Like, I like to be able to blame myself if I don't get it. And I think I would like feel guilty with someone else would be too stressful. So it's like certain elements I'd love to keep. I also love because everyone kind of praises me for it as well. It's like it's a weird one. It's seen to be impressive, but then I'm also going crazy. So it's a weird one. It's the work is getting made at the moment. It's happening, but I'm like, I can't keep working like this anymore. I need people. But them having seen the work now that because I've made it, I think has helped me now get people on board as well. You do have to do it and just do it yourself for a while so people can actually see the work you make, because the work won't get made if you aren't the one almost doing it at the beginning. So it's been very useful, but I'm also like, I need a break now.
What do you do to give yourself a break? Because you work very intensely.
I think it helps having friends both in the arts and outside the arts. Since coming back to Ireland, I've gotten so much closer with all my kind of Irish friends naturally. None of them are in the arts. Half of them don't really know what I do all day. Sometimes it can be like, oh, frustrating. Then also like, it's so freeing. It's such a funny dynamic when I talk to them about what I do. And then sometimes I just don't even bother. I can have days I'm just fun Nóra those days. It's like a complete different switch. But they'll always be there if I need them. I was doing a photo shoot for the new piece, and my friend came over and she did the photos. She's a nurse, but she got my camera and took the photos with me. I was like, please take them like this. And she's like, I'll come if you give me lunch. So I made her toasty and she took the photos. They make me see that what I do is a bit silly as well. It's grounding. I know they're not going to ask me about it because like my friends who are in the arts who also like, you need that as well. But you are so aware that the field we're in, like everyone's trying to support each other, but we're also all going for the same applications and the same opportunities. So it's like a funny dynamic. I think having those spaces where I can just switch off in a way and people don't know what I'm doing is kind of reassuring. Like I'll randomly just text in the group chat with those girls and be like, what photo do you like more for the poster? And they'll give me that is an artistic answer or something. I'll just be like, that your lips look nice in that one and that looks cool. It really helps having that kind of diversion.
You filled out a lot of applications. Have you got any advice for someone who maybe it's their first time filling one out?
They're a weird one for sure. I'm just trying to figure out who they actually serve. Like they love kind of community, kind of outreach programs. But if that's not what you're drawn to, what like I was recently kind of a dancer in like a kids show and we go to kind of creches and schools. I enjoyed it and we did workshops with the kids and all. And I was really sweet and everything. But I was like, I'm not the best person at this. I can be good at this for this time. I can't do this full time because the other dancers we were working with, that's more what they do. And I could feel like for those 2 weeks, I could kind of dive into that. And it was nice just after Fringe doing that. They also want you to take stuff like that and trying to balance it with not sacrificing what you want to do, but also seeing how you can mold it for that center or that funding body. Yeah, really knowing what you want to do, really being as clear as you possibly can. And I was recently on a panel I hadn't been on one like that before, and it was really interesting. So it's like aware of people are actually going to read this and making it clear and making it very practical because they'll be reading so many. Just writing very clearly why it suits you and why you suit them as well. I used to really apply for anything I would possibly see. Then I'd be doing crappy applications all the time. So it's like actually seeing what suits the work and what you want to do. Being as clear as you possibly can and being adaptable. I'm working with Ullin Art Centre. They're saying what outreach programs can you use, how we could tie together. So it's seeing actually what is even in that area. When I was applying I Dance, I'd be like, these are your GA clubs. I've contacted them and they want to work with me as well. Of like seeing actually that you know them as well, because you can so easily see through someone, and I do it all the time with like copying and pasting, and it doesn't read well, even though we know people who have to do that because everyone has to do that. It can easily just get like tossed the maybe pile. Then seeing that you're excited by the idea and that they should be excited by you then as well. I don't know if that made any sense, but just being clear.
No, that makes perfect sense. And thank you so much, because for someone who is so young, you have so much experience filling out applications and just even know where to research and find applications. Is there certain sites you go to find your applications?
I always see Dance Ireland, their opportunities page. I check it every day pretty much. And the same with the Dancing Opportunities. It's a global website. Following Instagrams, just following people directly that you are either interested in, or also going to festivals and seeing on the programs who supported the show, particularly if it's a show you like as well. My mum made me always do this. If I liked the show, I'd have to see actually who funded it, who sponsored it, who made it happen, because then you'll see actually what resources did they give to this person, how did they get in contact with them, just trying to see actually what's out there, because it can feel so daunting. And also the idea of like emailing a center, you can feel so stupid. They also need artists. Like in Fringe this year, I was at Toolbox, like the kind of networking event with different programmers. You really felt like, oh no, they also need people as well, even if it's not for you to perform. Gap Day as well, which is like you can go to a venue or some kind of center to like do whatever you need in a way. They have spaces, and I was in the pavilion yesterday doing my Gap Day, and they were like, this space is free majority of the time. Whenever you want, just come down or just email if it's free. Knowing you can actually contact people, I think, has slowly changed my brain of being like, they're people, and like you obviously know that, but it's like slowly building relationships with different organizations or different people in the field. Me realize, oh, I can actually just talk to them. Like there was someone I know who got a touring award this year. I contacted her being like, how did you do that? Or like, what were your kind of supporting materials like? You should go back to me with a nice chat about it. Talking to people basically, and going to as many events as you can without like tiring yourself out, because I'm also a little hermit. That's not my scene. So going to things that you're up for and getting to know people and faces, then you can also say, I saw you at this event for this and I'm interested in this. Having direct questions for people. Programmers get so many emails a day and you don't want to just be discarded immediately.
Have you anything coming up in the next few months?
Yeah, at the moment I'm working on the next piece. I was dreading going into that because after Fringe I was like, I'm wrecked. But it's like, it's been fun to kind of just tap into that slowly and being like, oh no, I still like to make. So it's like a solo piece that I'm going to be in and making. So it's also kind of figuring out what that's like as well, because we used to do solos in college a lot, but it's like remembering actually composition wise, or what does that mean to the audience and how do you sustain that, and also it's a nice exercise for myself as well, selfishly, but I hope it's also good for the audience. It's called Please Break My Heart. And I'm really just playing with the idea of how makers draw from heartbreak, what that means for the work and how you play with it, and how does something so personal become universal as well. Actively trying to get my heart broken so I have content for a piece in many ways. But it's been really, really fun to work on as well. I think I had my residency in Ullin Art Centre again last June. I was there for 2 weeks and by myself, and just really beginning to just like explore what is this. I really wasn't planning on making another piece for a while, because it was Lucy Ryan, who used to work in Smack Alley. She was like, when are you starting the next piece? And I was like, I have to make another piece. And this was like in May last year. And I was like, I thought like Half Sandwiches could just like tour for a few years and then I could do a next piece whenever I was ready. And she's like, no, people will be asking you like, what's next? If they like this, they'll want the next thing. I was trying to think, what do I have in like my back burner? The beginning of 2023, I was kind of joking with my friends that like my New Year's resolution was to get my heart broken, because I wanted to know what that felt like. That started the whole piece, the idea of Please Break My Heart. I kind of just took those 2 weeks in Ireland to be like, what is this? What is this world? When I start making a new piece, I always need to let it be like the previous piece for a while before it becomes its own thing. Get that like out of my system. So at the moment, structurally, it's quite like Ham Sandwiches, but I know it's like slowly breaking away from all that and it's becoming its own world. It's slowly coming together. And it's very camp. It's cheeky and playful, but also somber in different ways. It's mixing kind of dance, theatre, this film, text, anything I can throw in it. Like I need stimulants constantly from everything, and it's kind of Pride and Prejudice, Carrie Bradshaw. We've got like a lot of disco again with it, and Chapel Roan. Like it's all just kind of like all my favorite things, Dolly Alderton, like all kind of in one. But yeah, it's been really fun, and it's also so interesting writing it as well, because for ages it felt like it was becoming a stand-up show because it was all text. I just kept writing, but it's now, how can I add everything else I love into it? Yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot about my own habits through it, because it's just like about like love or dating. It's been very useful. It's been great. I'm working with Illa at the moment, that they'll come on as partners after that. I'll kind of develop it throughout the year with them. They're like outreach groups and stuff, because they have like amazing kind of LGBTQ plus groups that work there. So we'll like workshop the piece with them, and then it'll kind of premiere the full piece, and it'll dance season. If everything lands nicely, that's the plan for it. So it's nice knowing, oh, we can have a life afterwards, which is reassuring for me. I'm also just loving performing it and seeing what happens with it. So that's the next baby slowly being born in February. So it's part of Seen and Heard, and it'll be on the 13th and 14th of February in Smock Alley Theatre. So we're opening up the festival with the first piece. So it's a Thursday, Friday night, and it's perfect for like Valentine's Day or like Galentine's, like that energy. If you're anti-Valentine's or pro it suits both. So it's perfect.
I'm so excited. I saw ham sandwiches there last year, and as someone who never played Ga, I went into it feeling like, oh, I might not get this. And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, I do get this. I do really enjoy your work, and I'm looking forward to seeing your new work again. And I'm sure there's going to be much more to come. Do you think the government can do anything to help artists?
I think it's a funny one in a way, because it's so reliant on organizations like that, but at the same time it's so trying to be anti it by what we do. So it's a funny mix. I think the basic income for artists is so good, and hopefully that like gets continued and that it can actually be expanded, because it's only the kind of the lucky selected few who are part of it at the moment. But I think just actually letting people make, and it being treated like a normal job, or like viewed as a job, it really helps. It's very different systems, Netherlands and Ireland, in a way, because I think the scene in Ireland is so much messier and chaotic. You get jobs just by knowing people and seeing how you can fit in. You might be the best, but you're just there, or they think of your name first or something. In Netherlands, everything is systemized. It's like it's harder to break into it, but you know how to do it. I think that's what I found completely different. Ireland, I felt so detached from it when I wasn't in it because I didn't know anyone, but I couldn't figure out then how it worked. Now that I'm here and getting to know people, it's a lot easier just to be like, here, can I have a residency if you have a free studio for a week? It's really useful that we've no structure in a way, but it's like the Dutch system is great. You can work out how you pay people really clearly. It's all legal. They have these grids. If you're this many years graduated, you get this amount per week or per month for every kind of role. Dancer, choreographer, lighting design, like, and it's all there. So I think there was a much better understanding of like, how does this work? Because I know even now, like writing Arts Council applications, you have to say that you're paying according to the Arts Council's like paying artists fairly kind of policy, but there's no real numbers. Like it's all this kind of ideas. Of course, I want to pay people properly, but what am I meant to pay them? I remember asking my dad, like, what do I say is my rate? I don't know. I think it would really help if we had more kind of clear lines in how the system works, and because the intention is all there. Everyone is so supportive and wants to help everyone, but it's like we also don't really know how. So much of the funding is reliant on Arts Council, naturally, because it's like the main body, but there's only so much funding and so much kinds of funding they have. There's either the Agility Award, which is open to everyone. I was lucky, like I got one just as I was finishing college. Like it was great timing, and that made ham sandwiches possible. But it was like after that, the next jump up is like for loads of money and for something that you're not really qualified for. There's not a lot of actual money for kind of emerging artists. How you get that? As I know DLR, which will be part of, they have emerging artists bursary, and I got that last year. I'm like, can I get that again, or like do I just not have access to money now? How we can make kind of consistent, the artists can actually know there's some reliability in the system, and it's not just relying on, I know the Arts Council will have these different funds out next year, but like you know about that so far afterwards. It's so hard to map out your year personally and also the year for your work. I'm so busy at the moment for applications for all theoretical stuff for next year. I'll either be so busy or I'll have like literally nothing to do next year. So it's like, it's a strange one. The uncertainty of it, and seeing actually it is always part of it, because even how you make your work is always so uncertain. That's like a beauty of it, but it's like actually structurally you do need some certainty. Venues also need it for knowing who's going to be able to come to shows. How can we make that more structured? Obviously we always need more money. Every facet of this field needs more money constantly. Yeah, how can we give artists a chance to actually make a piece? Because it's like, even if I see a piece that I hate in the theatre, I'm always like so impressed that it got to a stage is so incredible. the layers that needs and almost the obstacles against that are so impressive for that to have landed there, because it's so tricky to actually pull anything together. Because I know Netherlands, it's like, if you don't get a project, you don't go ahead with it, which I know is similar in Ireland, but I've seen it more on like a bigger scale in Netherlands, because there's a lot more places for funding. There's a lot more kind of private funding as well. Not quite sponsorships, but like almost more like patrons or something. There seems to be a lot more ways to get money as opposed to there is here. Seeing how can we tap into that on a much smaller scale, because we are a much smaller country. Giving that consistency to artists so they can actually make work in like a human pace, because it's like trying to fight for money and scramble something together, and like work takes time. I really noticed that with ham sandwiches. It's the longest I have with the piece, and it's done the best out of all my pieces as well, because I actually had time to figure out what it is, and it got better at each stage. So you need time, and that's not going to be covered by like a bursary award that will be maybe 15,000 to last like the year and a half. Sorry, I'm rambling so much here, but it's like the Arts Council don't like when you reapply with something, the same project, but like you will need more money for that project. So it's like you're having to constantly reinvent yourself, which is so tiring. So it's like seeing how can we get artists time, basically. There's the kind of Hatch Award in Dance Ireland, which I got this year, and it basically just gives you time, and you need to say like why you need time. And I was like, I need to start my company. I need to like, there's a time to figure out how can I strategically work. And I give you a tiny bit of money, like it's just 500, but it's just seeing that they prioritize that as well. We had our kind of gathering last week, and everyone was just saying we just need time with either just your work or creation, or just you and your practice. A lot more of that kind of funding, as well as the kind of big scale touring or production money, but just actually money that artists can think and create in whatever way they need to be.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. You've given such an insight into how you work and how you go about going for applications. I really look forward to seeing your work and seeing it heard. Definitely going to be in the audience.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.